On the news, Governor Abba Yusuf rejects appeal court's judgment adds to Supreme Court. Federal government commits 10% of social intervention funds to PWDs. And NBA knocks Governor Adeleke and Osun State lawmakers over suspension of Chief Judge. Glad to have you join us on News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I'm Tamilore Akinkolie. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the February 25 presidential election recently called for a merger among opposition parties ahead of the 2027 election, as he emphasized the importance of the merger to prevent Nigeria from evolving into a one-party state, expressing concerns over the dominance of the ruling All Progressive Congress (APC). While speaking on TV360's flagship program DG360, political affairs analyst Abubakar Kari says the move by Atiku was suffered electoral defeat in 3 presidential contests reflects his resilience and determination in advancing Nigeria's political process.
If we recall very well, Atiku Abubakar was involved in the formation of the APC. APC itself is an amalgam of several political parties and political groupings. What makes this particular thing different, I think, is the timing. This time around, it appears the agitation started early enough, coming immediately on the heels of the pronouncement by the Supreme Court affirming Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president. And what happened for me was more than flying a kite. It appears that Atiku has something up his sleeve. It also appears that Atiku is not ready to give up, contrary to the expectations of many, that given his age and frequent failure to get the coveted prize of the presidency, he would give up. So I think this time around, Atiku has started very early, and it will be quite different because having started this early, he will have all the opportunities to evaluate the several or many obstacles on the way and to attempt to surmount them.
Kano Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf has rejected the Court of Appeal judgment which sacked him on Friday. The Court of Appeal in Abuja upheld the nullification of the election of Yusuf of the New Nigerian People's Party (NNPP) by the State Election Petition Tribunal. However, Yusuf and his party, the New Nigerian People's Party (NNPP), rejected this judgment and declared their resolve to take the case to the Supreme Court in an effort to retain a seat. While responding to the verdict of the court, the Kano State Governor described it as a miscarriage of justice, saying he is optimistic that the Supreme Court will set aside the judgments of the lower court. Still on electoral matters, people's interest in the judiciary is gradually waning as a result of the surge in overturning election verdicts in Nigeria. Reacting to this development, legal expert Liberato Shoma says the court needs to exercise extreme caution when handling instances involving post-election procedures. He added that the court should refuse to be compromised by any party, as the fallout could create chaos in a fragile polity.
The court also should be very careful in the way they handle this decision. They should refuse to be influenced by any party because the fallout of the election is still very fragile. People are gradually losing hope and trust in the judicial process. And there's this tendency, this belief that, some unseen hands are manipulating the judiciary to give some decisions. Remember, before now, governorship election petition terminates at the Court of Appeal. It is for conflicting decisions like this that the Supreme Court, in its wisdom, decided that all election petitions should terminate at the Supreme Court so that there be uniformity. So a situation where the Court of Appeal is clearly going against the Supreme Court, definitely you allow mischief maker to read meanings into it. So that's why, for me, I think the court should be very careful. And I also would think that the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court subsequently will correct all of this in the case of the governor. Because also I think he's still sitting on the keg of gunpowder. And this is why people, the judiciary will consistently be on trial. Like Lord Denny once said, when a judge sits on trial, the court is on trial. Because when you're trying one matter, the politicians know the truth. But it is the judge that is on trial. That's what the judges don't know. They are the ones on trial. They are the ones that the public will call. They are the ones that the people, they are the ones that we are discussing here now, and not the politicians. So the judges should be above board, irrespective of the lures or attempt by politicians to compromise them. They should ensure that the consistency becomes the hallmark of their judicial aim. Otherwise, we'll gradually use some of these judgments to destroy that credo of the judiciary that we once all reverenced.
The Imo governorship election may have been won and lost, but reactions are still trailing the exercise as Independent National Electoral Commission accredited civil society organization in the state said the conduct of the election leaves much to be desired. Speaking at a press conference held in Owerri, the civil society group alleged the election was marred by vote buying, voter intimidation, voters' apathy, and notable violence as they call for total cancellation of the exercise.
It is unfortunate that incidents of electoral malpractices were recorded across board. These include vote buying, voter intimidation, voters' apathy, and notable violence. Our observation, therefore, the following represent facts in videos, text, and also in pictorial. They include 1, that the election was marred by gross irregularities characterized by vote buying and physical attack on persons who were asked to exercise their franchise. 2, that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, needs to address the people of Imo and the majority of Nigerians as to why voting was carried out in many polling units without the use of the BVS meant for accreditation of voters. 3, in several instances, security agencies were complicit, as observed and shown in several viral videos, where they compromised their duties of ensuring credible election. By that, they aided and abetted the massive rigging as witnessed in the Imo State election.
The federal government has announced that 10% of the social intervention funds will be allocated to people living with disabilities, PWD. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu, made this disclosure in Abuja while inaugurating various empowerment programs sponsored by the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. According to her, President Bola Tinubu has mandated that the disability community should be given priority in all intervention programs of the government. She added that the federal government was also providing point-of-sales POS machines to PWDs as a means of empowerment, with each beneficiary getting 100,000 naira as capital. Nigeria is grappling with the enduring challenge of rising inflation as the latest data reveals an unsettling trend. The inflation rate is surged for the 10th consecutive time this year, standing at 27.3%. As the economic climate remains fragile, analysts have voiced concerns about the trajectory of inflation in the country. Economist Mukhtar Mohammed has sounded the alarm that Nigeria's inflation rate might get to the 30% mark in the first quarter of 2024 if corrective measures are not implemented. Mukhtar emphasizes the urgency of addressing the root causes of inflation to avert the potential crisis looming in the first quarter of 2024.
The problem now that we are facing as a nation is because of the exchange rate, and we need to do something fast about it. Otherwise, we might even hit the 30 and above it. So I have an opinion that if we are able to do what we ought to do based on what the government is saying, then definitely we will not hit that inflation of 30%. But if by chance that January and February we are still battling with FX liquidity, FX stability, then we might even exceed that 30% mark. Remember, the government is telling us that maybe they will be selling some assets, and they're expecting FX inflow from Saudi Arabia. The Minister of Finance have not told us yet if the $10 billion that was supposed to come in some weeks ago is already here. We've seen them do some forward payments, especially to the international banks, and very soon they will be doing that to the local banks also. If they're able to clear up the backlog of the FX debt, especially to Nigerian banks, and then also to the airlines that are in Nigeria, and we might see those numbers coming down. But like you said, if we want to look at what we have on ground, what we have to pay for, then it's not looking good. But when we have to add what we have on ground based on promises or based on what the government is saying they want to do, then we could be a little bit hopeful that before the end of this year, we see a stability in the exchange rate.
The Nigerian Bar Association has condemned the suspension of Chief Judge of Osun State, Oyebola Ojo, by the state government. The House of Assembly during plenary on Thursday ordered that Justice Ojo step aside pending the outcome of the investigation against Star. Approving the resolution of the Assembly, the governor of the state, Ademola Adeleke, appointed Justice Olayinka Afolabi as the acting Chief Judge. Ojo's suspension was, however, in defiance of an order of the National Industrial Court sitting in Ibadan, which restrained Adeleke from removing her. Condemning the government's action, the NBA, in a statement on Friday by its National Publicity Secretary Akorede Lawal, said a removal was unlawful, describing the action of the governor and the state lawmakers as unwarranted assault on the judiciary, which is another arm of the government in the state. And in Lagos, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, represented by his deputy Obafemi Hamzat, has received the Red Bull athlete and three-time slacklining world champion and record holder Jan Roos at the State House. Jan performed a daring slacklining walk over skyline of Lagos from Sterling Towers, Marina, Lagos to the Onome Rig. The Estonian says coming to Lagos is a wonderful experience for him as he got a beautiful view of the city from the height he performed this feat. He also commended the Lagos Blue Line Rail and other infrastructure which portrays the state as an advanced city.
Thank you for bringing me to Lagos. I saw it first on social media. And people are saying, oh, is this Lagos? I can see a train moving. So it seems a lot of people do not know that we actually have the Blue Line running in Lagos. So thank you for showing that to me. Because for some, by some coincidence, when you are going, the Blue Line was also moving. And people were seeing, and their response was, oh, is this Lagos? So thank you very much. But for me, I think the lesson to learn is whatever you put your mind to, you can always do it. And that's why I asked you, are you scared? And like he said, hey, he's a human being just like us. He said he has two hands, of course. Of course, he has two hands, but I think he's determined to do what he wants to do, and he's doing it. And for me, that's the story there for Nigerians.
When I started low walking, and like even here, the line is 350 meters long. Sometimes, yes, and for the young people, it looks like it's a long way to do something. It's like it looks scary to go there. You see that's the end, or like that's the goal where to go, and that goal requires a lot of steps. A lot of steps, small steps. They're shaky steps. Anything you do, they're shaky. They're not stable. They're scary sometimes. But you try like, okay, breathe, focus one step. There's distraction, maybe some cars, be horning. Yeah, like, okay, no, I have my way. It's there. That's my goal. Yeah. With everything in life, and just step by step, and you make it. Because at some point I was like, it's shaky kind of a lot, and like, can I make it? Let's not focus right away finishing it.
The Federal Housing Authority, FHA, is set to demolish illegal structures in Festac Phase 2 in Abule Ado Estate area in Lagos State. Speaking at a media parley in Lagos, FHA Zonal Manager for Southwest, Akingbola Gbemiro, says many of the structures are built on illegally acquired land standing on pipelines and right-of-way, while other structures marked for demolitions did not meet the requirement of the agency. FHA Head of Town Planning Southwest Zone, Francisca Michael James, while on inspection tour of the estate with journalists, disclosed that FHA had marked some of the property for demolition since 2021, as most of the property are built without the required permit from the agency.
2021, after so many years of trying to get into the property belonging to Federal Housing Authority, which we actually label as Festac Phase 2. It's been quite cumbersome, especially when you talk about encroachment and illegal developments. This has become so wide and is turning the whole place into a slum. A lot of illegalities have gone on in that place, and we're talking about quite a number of illegal developments. And we're trying to see how best we could be able to resolve this and to be able to make people live in more serene environment, and for us to be able to also do our own part by making sure that people have good quality houses for them to be able to live in. Unfortunately, we've had series of issues of illegal estate developers, illegal people selling land anyhow. We have people who claim they own the place.
I've given them notice. If you can see, I think the cameramen saw some of our marking as far back as September. Even the one of 2022 is still there, and to our surprise, the level of work is still going on. No regard.
No what?
No regard for the law. So that's what is happening. The marks are still there, evidence on their wall. And some were even as far back as 2022. Some 2023 as far back as August. And we are in November now. The authority, after, if we have due, we already have the permission of our management. So I will also sought for security. When we have that security backing, we will start to enforce the structures that are on the road and the ones that are on the pipeline setback.
We'll take a break here, but still to come, Trump to remain on 2024 primary ballot after judge dismisses lawsuit. Details of the story right after this break. Thank you for staying with us. Here is a quick recap of our top stories. Abba Yusuf, governor of Kano State, says he has informed his lawyers to proceed to the Supreme Court regarding the judgment of the Court of Appeal, which affirmed the verdict of the Kano State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal. The tribunal had sacked Yusuf, candidate of the New Nigeria's People Party (NNPP). However, Yusuf and his party, the New Nigeria People's Party, rejected the judgment and declared their resolve to take the case to the Supreme Court in an effort to retain a seat. We also told you that the federal government has allocated 10% of the social intervention funds to people living with disabilities, PWDs. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu, made this disclosure in Abuja while inaugurating various empowerment programs sponsored by the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. According to her, President Bola Tinubu had mandated the disability community be given priority in all intervention programs of the government. And in case you missed any of the news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on Lime's World TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store and the Huawei App Gallery. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online. In business, the surge in Nigeria's inflation rate, driven significantly by food inflation, has prompted calls from analysts for proactive government interventions. Agro-enthusiast Julius Ogar says the federal government should be deliberate in solving the challenge. Speaking with TV 360, Ogar pointed out the role food inflation plays in driving up the overall inflation rate, as the increase in cost of essential food items has not only impacted the standard of living for many Nigerians, but has also contributed to the broader economic challenges faced by the country.
We are still where we are, or in fact, we're even in a worse place. There just has to be deliberate policies to bringing back the marketing boards and all of that. We have not seen. You see, agriculture is a sector that is practical. It's not bureaucratic. So if we're not seeing the level of intense activity that will generate, bring down the cost of transportation, generate agricultural activity, even at the subsistence level, not to talk of at the commercial level. We've not seen all of those, and we've continued to see the food belt production areas in this country remaining the hub of crisis. So with those crises, with all these factors coming in together, you can only hope. We can only hope that something happens and the prices maybe stabilize. But coming down rapidly is going to take some time. And I think that's what the government really needs to, because people are getting more angry because they are hungry. Families are spending a lot much more on food than ever before. People are spending more money on food than on health, than on education, than on anything else. And people are just struggling to get by. And it's going to be really, really hard. If you add to this all the other challenges we're having with security and the crisis outside of this country, in the Middle East, remember Israel, which is a nation at war right now, is an agricultural it's exporting country. Remember the amount of grains that used to come into Africa from Ukraine and Russia. All of that is affected. It's not. I mean, the inflow of all of those now has been impacted by the crisis in those countries and crisis in other parts of the world. And if you add to that also the impact we're having from climate change, then we're in for hard times.
On the global scene, a judge in Colorado has rejected an attempt to bar former Donald Trump from the state 2024 Republican presidential primaries. This ends a landmark trial over a lawsuit that argued Trump's actions leading up to the 2021 Capitol riot render him eligible to hold office again. District Judge Terrell Walface issued the ruling requiring that the Colorado Secretary of State place Trump on the state primary ballot next year. The ruling is the latest setback for effort to disqualify Trump from the Republican primary election. Book enthusiasts and those passionate about art and culture are in high spirit as they celebrate the 25th edition of the annual Lagos Book and Art Festival LABAF at the Federal Freedom Park in Lagos Island. Speaking at the festival themed The Reset, History and the Darkling Plain, stakeholders say reading culture needs to be molded into the younger generation. TV 360 correspondent Chidi Igwe has more details in this next report.
American film producer and entrepreneur Walt Disney once said, "There is more treasures in books than in all the pirate loots on Treasure Island." It is that treasure that has brought people of like minds together once again at the Book and Art Festival to discuss the creative industry, foster relationships, and promote knowledge. Some renowned authors and panelists at the festival revealed that there is room for improvement as the evolution of the Book Fair Festival didn't match their expectation.
There's something about the beauty and the persona of a book. Some people take their time. There's goalkeeping, editorial goalkeeping. There are designers who think out the layout. There are people who plan how the book comes out. Much of that we don't have anymore. So when you have a book fair, much of the books are looking so drab, so ugly, I'm afraid, more like mimeographs and all that. So we lost a lot.
Despite the setback faced by the reading community, some positives were highlighted by another section of the panel.
We have had great authors
who are featured in the Nigerian International Book Fair, Wale Soyinka and the rest. And when you are talking of even government participation, we have a lot of ministers of education attended Nigerian International Book Fair. We have many Nigerian leaders that have attended Nigerian International Book Fair. So that glory lost by Ife has been regained by Nigerian International Book Fair.
The festival won't be complete without a take-home from participants on the essence of promoting a reading culture in the society.
Hilda Dokubo, who's a Nollywood star, has written a book, Waterside Girl. If you grew up in Port Harcourt, you understand when we say Waterside Girl. I'm so excited. I reached her. So I'm so happy. Julius Agu wrote as well. So I think that it's important to have these people that come with their cult following celebrity status. I think that's part of the way to turn attention to the book.
Just as a popular saying by Margaret Fuller goes, today a reader, tomorrow a leader. From the festival, we now see the need to read more and the roadmap to building a sustainable reading culture. Chidi Igwe, TV360 News, Lagos.
The Super Eagles squad has arrived in Kigali, Rwanda for the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying features against the Warriors of Zimbabwe on Sunday. The players and their officials departed Victor Atta International Airport, Uyo on Friday night, arriving in Kigali in the early hours of Saturday morning after a 3 hours 30 minutes flight from Uyo. The contingent then made a 2-hour road trip to the city of Butare, where the Uyo Stadium venue of the game is located. The Super Eagles will have a of the Uyo Stadium later tonight, while Sunday's encounter will kick off at 2 p.m. Nigerian time. Still on the Super Eagles game against the Warriors of Zimbabwe on Sunday, earlier on, I asked sports journalist and football scout Bumi Arena on what the team needs to do to erase the disappointment of their last game against the Crocodiles of Lesotho as they file out against Zimbabwe.
The team has to do its homework on the opponent. That's very important. I don't know if you saw the analysis I did on the Lesotho team. I analyzed every bit of the team, including the players, how they behave off the ball. I think this is very important for the Super Eagles, a team that wants to play at the Nations Cup and wants to go to the World Cup. These are basic things they need to have. And, there needs to be a little bit of urgency on the part of the players. The coaches can, do all the tactics and all the likes of it. It's the players that are going to the pitch to go execute it. And the attitude I saw from the players is not one that I think is good enough to, play for the Super Eagles. All the players, the attitude was very bad, I think. And that's why I think they need to be talked to by the Minister of Sports, by the NFF president. They need to know the importance of this game, and it should not be taken lightly.
The team seems to be struggling in the goalkeeping department. How can the coaching crew fix the area as the team continues to aim for a World Cup spot?
Well, I understand where you're going. I don't disagree with him. He's the one with the players. He knows the best. But to put the best at his best, there needs to be competition. We can go back to a few years ago. There was Ayenuba, there was Vincent Enyama, there was Austin Ejide. If Enyama should misbehave, he knows if Ejide should get there, he's not going to get the shirt for a very long time. So there's no competition. I'm not arguing with him, with the coach, that maybe Uzoho is the best. He's the one with the boys. The thing is, he needs to give him competition. Uzoho cannot be performing badly and he remains in goal. He needs to know he will lose his shirt if he's not playing badly. Like every other player in the team. You could see the way Iwobi and all of them were strolling as if it was a training game in a park here in Nigeria. That is a World Cup qualifier. And they did not approach it that way. And for me, we have the players, but the approach was very bad from the players. I don't know what they were told. They have money. A lot of people have more money than they are. Even here in Nigeria, not even abroad. They're playing for Nigeria and play that way.
That was sports journalist Bumi Arena speaking on the upcoming match between Super Eagles and the Warriors of Zimbabwe. And that ends all our bulletin on News Now. See you again next time. Bye-bye.